Let's be honest, most people think charisma is confidence. Some think it's humor, while others think it's status. But Tony Stark proves something way more uncomfortable. Charisma isn't how likable you are, it's how much you own who you are even when it's ugly. And that's why Iron Man works. So let me break down 4 of the main reasons why women are drawn to Iron Man and why most men fail trying to be like him. Reason 1. He doesn't perform masculinity, he exposes it. Tony Stark doesn't try to look cool. He already knows he is, and that changes everything. Most characters perform masculinity. They lower their voice, suppress their emotion, they posture. But Tony does the opposite. He admits fear, he admits guilt, and he admits weakness and keeps moving anyway. But here's the key difference. He doesn't outsource that weight to other people. Most men think vulnerability means trauma dumping, over-explaining, and asking for reassurance, but Tony does the opposite. He acknowledges the flaw and then takes action. And that's exactly why it works. Because confidence that survives exposure is magnetic. But on the other hand, confidence that needs validation always collapses. And this is where most men fail. They confess their weakness hoping it earns attraction instead of interrogating it into discipline. Reason 2. His humor is control, not neediness. Tony Stark jokes constantly.
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
Shakespeare in the Park? Doth mother know you weareth her drape?
But he's not joking to stay liked, he's joking to stay regulated. His humor shows up under pressure, in danger, and when the situation is spiraling. And that tells people something subconscious, that this man isn't panicking. Charisma doesn't come from being funny, it comes from emotional control under stress. Most men try to imitate the jokes but miss the stability underneath them. They use it as a crutch while Tony uses it as a weapon, and that difference is everything. Reason 3. Power makes him more careful, not more confident. Here's where Tony separates himself from other fiction characters. As Tony gets more powerful, he becomes more restrained, more deliberate, and more accountable. That's backwards from ego-driven men. Most people want power so they can finally relax, but Tony wants power because he knows what can happen without control. He builds safeguards, protocols, and fail-safes, not because he's weak, but because he's honest about his capacity for damage. Women trust men who take consequences seriously. This is where imitation fails again. Most men copy the dominance but skip the responsibility, and it shows. Reason 4. The suit doesn't make him, it reveals him. The armor isn't the flex. Tony Stark without the suit is still decisive, intelligent, and self-aware. Or, in his words,
big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
the suit doesn't compensate for insecurity, it amplifies competence that already exists. And that's the lesson most people miss, including Spider-Man.
This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it, okay? Gotta sound like my dad.
Real charisma isn't an enhancement, it's an amplification. If the man underneath is unstable, the power just exposes it faster. That's why Iron Man never feels hollow. The suit works because the man already does. Here's the truth that you may or may not be ready for. Most men attempt to copy the confidence, the humor, the dominance, but they avoid the accountability, the self-restraint, and the consequences. They want the presence without the burden. But what these dudes don't realize is that Tony Stark doesn't avoid responsibility, he builds his entire identity around it, and that's why the charisma is real. Iron Man isn't admired because he's perfect, he's admired because he takes responsibility before he takes credit. Not because he's loud, not because he's rich, and not because of the suit, but because when things go wrong, he doesn't disappear, and that's what real charisma actually is. It's the ability to make the best out of a bad situation. Think of charisma like building armor in a cave full of scraps. No audience, no validation, just pressure, responsibility, and restraint. If these breakdowns feel personal to you, subscribe. I break down why these characters stay with us psychologically and what they reveal about our psyche.